All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Michigan State and Penn State have agreed to have their end of the regular season battle, this year at least, take place in the friendly confines of the climate controlled Ford Field in downtown Detroit. This contest was set to take place, or is set to take place rather, Friday, November 24th, the day after Thanksgiving on NBC Prime Time. The game was originally slated to take place that Saturday in East Lansing at Spartan Stadium, but the Big Ten approached Michigan State about moving the game to Detroit. Weather concerns for a night game late in November in the Big Ten was, some concern. I mean, you think about it in recent years, when the Spartans hosted the Nittany Lions, there was once a weather delay. There was also a snowstorm. Don't get me wrong. This is, football weather, at least the snow is. But from the business side of it, I can understand it. And it's one of those where Kevin Warren, the former Big Ten commissioner, who basically negotiated this big television deal with Fox, CBS, and NBC, left out some stuff that, the people who were left holding the bag with the Big Ten found out at the last minute, most notably as far as the want, by networks such as NBC to have primetime games and a certain amount of primetime games from the Big Ten on their network. And this was a slot right here that NBC basically was looking at. So you look at it, and it's an interesting dynamic here because the Big Ten has the deal with NBC, CBS, and Fox. And of course, they want to be the premier conference for college football, which is evident by those deals. And the thing is, when you get those big networks, they want the marquee teams and they want them in marquee slots, which is one reason why we're having this scenario right here. There's optimism, at least, that there will be more fans intrigued to attend the game in Motown. And talking about the day after Thanksgiving, of course, on Thanksgiving Day, the Lions will host the Packers at Ford Field. But it's about a 90-minute drive from East Lansing to Detroit. We're talking about a 6-hour trek from Happy Valley to Detroit. But you look at it from the positive aspects, potentially positive aspects. Michigan State does have alumni in that area, so there's a hope that maybe some of them will come out to the game. Now, in recent years, Michigan State has not drawn well for their regular season finale. Of course, you look at last season, they were out of it in the standings in the Big Ten, first and foremost, and they were playing an Indiana team that was out of it as well. It's on a holiday weekend. These are factors, but I'll tell you like this: if we're talking about a Michigan State team that's 9-2 or 10-1, and they have aspirations of winning the Big Ten or possibly getting to the college football playoff, we're probably not having that discussion. You got to give people a reason to come out there and watch. They're not going to go out there if a team is struggling on the gridiron. But I will say this: if, and this is a big if this contest proves to be successful attendance wise, could Ford Field be the future site of this contest annually? That's, that's a realistic question to ask. And I mean, with that said, if that was the case, would both teams, be willing to give up a home game each year? Because I mean, let's not forget, I mean, Beaver Stadium in Happy Valley, we're talking about nearly 110,000 people consistently going out there and supporting the Nittany Lions. And there's one thing that we have noticed with Penn State football over the years: when the sun goes down at Happy Valley, and Penn State has a whiteout, they don't have a problem, selling out there. So would they want to give that up? I doubt it. I mean, would money talk to sway, a national power like Penn State to give that up? I'm not sure. But I mean, you think about it just for the sake of argument, you have some national brands that play at a neutral site every year for a conference game. Texas and Oklahoma play at at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, and of course, once upon a time they were not in the same conference when Texas was in the Southwest Conference and Oklahoma was in the Big Eight. But nonetheless, they still do it. Arkansas and Texas A&M, they play at Jerry World down in Arlington. Baylor and Texas Tech also play at Jerry World in Arlington. And you think about Florida and Georgia playing down at Jacksonville every year. These are just some examples of it as far as neutral site games being played by conference rivals. Both Michigan State and Penn State recruit in the Detroit area. So this is going to be an interesting dynamic as well to see how that factors into this contest. But at the end of the day, like it or not, this is a new direction in football. Both college and the NFL is going. We're seeing, some neutral site games obviously in college, but then also, for the dome factor, as people are worried about weather because they're worried about bringing in more fans. I mean, you look at the Chicago Bears. I mean, there's a possibility that they're going to be playing indoors if they get a new stadium in Arlington Heights. I'm not a fan of it, don't get me wrong, because it's hard to say that they're the monsters of the Midway, but nonetheless, uh, this is, the new scenario. So I look at it like this: anything is on the table. I know that Michigan State is saying, "Hey, for right now, it's a one-time thing," possibly, But if it's a scenario where we're talking about 60 to 70,000 people coming out to watch this game on Thanksgiving weekend, you know what? Money talks, and they could be talking about bringing this game back to Detroit on a yearly basis. I'm not saying that it's going to happen. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying hypothetically, it's possible. So you also think about within the Big Ten. Obviously, it's not at an indoor stadium, but Northwestern and Illinois have played several times at Wrigley Field in the last 10 years or so. So it's all about entertainment, and that's what it is. And I mean, collegiate athletics, is another form of that. Whether people want to accept it or not, there's money involved. And whenever there's money involved in a situation like this, there's an entertainment aspect. So, in my opinion, even though that everybody involved, and I could be wrong on this, and I'm not afraid to be wrong, it's a scenario where everybody's saying the right things. Oh, it's a one-time thing, but I guarantee you, if this game is well received, it would not surprise me to see Ford Field as the new site of this contest, or maybe a scenario where both schools agree to play there once every 3 years. Michigan State would host Penn State. Penn State would follow that by hosting Michigan State. And then on the third year, they agree to play at Ford Field. Anything is possible. But you look at it like this: I think this is just a tip of the iceberg, of things to come for the Big Ten, especially with their new television partners in both CBS and NBC. Of course, they have their deal with Fox, and it's been in place for some time. It's obviously it's been renewed, but nonetheless, it's going to be interesting to see how this dynamic plays out. Like again, I don't want to sound like a broken record. Wouldn't surprise me to see this game stay in Detroit. Wouldn't surprise me to see it go back on campus as well. But at the end of the day, college football is a business. Money talks, and everything else walks. So let's just see what happens this November when the Spartans and Nittany Lions clash in Motown. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.